Alright, so we are looking at a train. And it is a heat pump. It is a XR15, I think. I don't know. 14. And it is not cooling. And this heat wave is just, well, let's say it's in the low 90s this week. It was 100 Friday. Well, I was off, but anyway, these people came back in from their July 4th vacation Sunday night, which is last night as I'm recording this. This is Monday, about lunchtime. They called in last night, which was Sunday night, the 7th of July. And I went in the house. They've got zoning. Both thermostats are on, set to 70. It's staying about 73 in the house. They said the unit was short cycling on and off. So when I walked around here, as you can see, it's drinking water. I don't know if it's frozen or freezing up there or something. We'll figure that out. But when I got here, came around here, the unit was running. Then I went in the house, checked the thermostat settings. When I came back out, it's off. And all the thermostats are set for cooling. And they are set back down to 68 degrees. It's about 73 in the house. They weren't setting it on 68. I put them there, but they were both set on 70. I was reading 73 in the house, and it's not there. See, now it's coming back on. So I want to get some gauges on it first and see what our pressures are doing. They said the unit short cycles. It'll come on, stay on for a little while, then it'll go back out. So I didn't know they had zoning until I got here. So now I'm wondering if we have a DAT sensor problem or a temperature sensor problem on the zoning. Maybe that thing's out of range and it's reading a colder supply temperature than it actually is, so it's tripping it off. It'll stay off for quite a while until that temperature warms back up to a certain point. Then the zone panel will turn the outdoor unit back on. So that's kind of what I'm curious about. Now that I know there's zoning on the house, I was thinking maybe we just had, maybe we're talking about short cycling, maybe there was a problem with the pressure switch or something. What does this go to? This goes back inside. That's going to be an outdoor temperature sensor. More than likely that somebody has stuck in here oil on these lines. So anyway, let's get some gauges on it and see what our pressures are. Some good hot air coming out of the top of this thing. Losing 24 volts from the zone board. Next time it comes off, shuts off, we'll check our 24 volts over here coming to the outdoor unit. So running a 136 over 360. I think our refrigerant charge is going to be okay. We'll get our superheat and subcooling real quick. superheat and a 14 subcool. Subcooling on this unit's 10 degrees, so that's a little high. But our head pressure staying right around 350. Now the subcooling's coming down. You gotta let it run for, it just came back on. Let it run for a few minutes. Let this pressure stabilize. But I'm not seeing a problem with a clogged drain line because we've got plenty of water coming out of this drain line. So let's see what do we got over here. So this is going to be outdoor temperature sensor. They have mounted right there. So I know that's going to be tied back into the zone board up there. So they probably got the HZ432 zone board up there, which allows you to do outdoor OAT sensor and a DAT sensor, your discharge air sensor. So I wonder if that board up there is either that sensor is doing something quirky and then just cycling this thing off on limit. But next time it shuts off, I'm going to check for 24 volts right across here and see what it gives us. So now it's been running about 10 minutes, so we're at a 14 superheat, 11 degree subcooling. I'm fine with that. Unit calls for 10 plus or minus 3. So let's see what happens next time it shuts off. Alright guys, so real quick, I'm just kind of doing this by hand with the phone. My GoPro is just being stupid today. But if I go between common and Y right there, the unit just shut off. So I'm going between common and Y, and I've got no voltage there. So we're losing our 24 volts from inside. It's probably going to be something related to that zone board. Shouldn't be an SS2 switch or a drain problem because this thing's draining water. At some point that supply air temperature is just getting too cold, and then that DAT sensor is shutting it off. It may be reading out of range, but let's head up in the attic and check out the zone board. So what I've done out here temporarily, I've wire nutted Y to R so this contactor will stay closed. The zone board is dropping our call for whatever reason. We're going to go up there and figure that out. But I wire nutted that there to close this contactor, keep this unit running so I can check my temperature split up there and compare my supply temperature with what that DAT sensor is telling me, and see what the zone board's doing. Alright, so our DAT sensor is right here. And you can see we're reading a 58 degree supply upside down. We're still out on our low limit for cooling. That's why it's flashing. But it's telling me it's 42 degrees over there. And it's 58. So we've got a DAT sensor out of range. Alright. Now with these DAT sensors, these zone boards will run. See, now it's telling me it's 39 degrees. So it's like 20 degrees too low. Sensor's reading out of range. All you have to do temporarily, see that light flashing, cool 1, that's flashing, letting me know we're on our cool low temperature limit. Purpose of the sensor is to keep that coil from freezing, for dampers sticking or motors not running. But all you have to do is disconnect the sensor, and eventually that'll reset itself with a power cycle. and the system will run without the sensor. So we have disconnected the sensor, and after a couple of minutes you see it stop flashing. So we are showing DAT failure because I have it disconnected. And we're going to ohm out this sensor and check it out and see what it's reading. Alright, so here is the sensor chart for the DAT sensor. Luckily it was over there in the box. And as you can see, I'm ohming it out. And we're getting 36.9 kilo ohms. So I'm going to range it. Open. I'm going to go back here. And let's just turn it off. 34, 35. You see there, 33 goes off the chart at 32 degrees. So we'll go down to the next set of 30s, which will be over here. And that would be reading 120 degrees. So we know that's not it. So it's reading way out of range. Alright guys, so I've got my R and my Y disconnected and wire nutted back properly. The system is still running. So those zone systems will run without a sensor being connected. But if you connect it, it's going to do what you want, or it's going to do what the sensor tells it. So in this case, that sensor was reading 20 degrees below what the actual supply was. Purpose of that is if a damper sticks closed or a blower quits running, something happens, cause that coil to freeze. Once that temperature gets below a certain point, it'll shut this outdoor unit off. When it balances back up above a certain temperature, it'll turn it back on. So I don't want to leave it disconnected. I've got a new one right here. I'm going to put a new sensor in up there. You just don't want to create a problem. But it'll run without it, but you know, I've seen some people install zoning and never install the DAT sensor, which is a mistake. They do go bad, but better than a freeze up and water coming through the ceiling, that kind of a thing. You want to try to prevent any possible scenario. So let's go up there and put this sensor back in, and we should be good to go. All right, so let's get this sensor swapped out. A real good place to put this thing. So right up there, my GoPros. It's time to upgrade. I think I'll get a newer model. It works okay, but it just gets a little hot. I know they all do, but that one's been having issues connecting to the app. And I kind of enjoy being able to use my phone. I can watch the video while I'm recording, make sure I'm getting what you need to see, that kind of thing. But I'm going to do it the Ted Cook way today. And let's swap this thing out real quick. There we go. That's all it is. Get this new sensor out. I'm just going to reuse the old housing. There we go. Just slide that. In there. I think that's how it goes. Yeah. Goes in there a little tighter than that, doesn't it? There we go. So we're going to slide that one in. should gradually start responding to the temperature change. Okay, did that hole not line up? All right. There. So I was trying to put it on there straight. It's actually cat-cornered a little bit. So there you go. Anyway, get it right back up and connect it back to the zone board. And hopefully we'll be getting the correct temperature displayed. And yeah, these things will run without the sensor connected, but like I said, if you get a damper, you get one of these dampers to stick closed, so you got both of your zones calling, zone 1, get to focus, zone 1 and zone 2 both calling for cooling. If zone 1 is stuck closed, that thermostat down there is never going to satisfy, so it's going to keep calling the zone board for air conditioning. And then maybe this one satisfies, and then when it satisfies, it's going to close because this one's still calling, but this one's stuck closed. Obviously no airflow. Your coil is going to freeze up. So anyway, or your blower motor cause it to freeze up. So it's still saying failure. Usually it'll say, if I cycled the power, it will come back on and reset itself and say not connected or not present. Let's see what happens here. Got it reconnected. Boom. Now it is reading 59 degrees. So there you go. 59 degrees as opposed to 40. Makes a big difference. And that's why they didn't have any air conditioning. The zone board was going out on a low temperature limit, dropping 24 volts to the outdoor unit, causing it to shut off, and then waiting for this thing to warm back up to its reset point. Because it was reading so far below range, it was taking a long time for that to happen. And no air conditioning. Zoning, guys, you gotta love it.